In this video, we're going to talk about subconscious triggers of IBS, Crohn's, and colitis. Like, what is putting your gut into overdrive, and how do we stop it? So, yesterday I was in the car, and the car was a little bit messy. There was a lot of trash on the ground. I didn't particularly want to be in the car. I was getting agitated. There was traffic, and I had a bunch of stuff that was like very hard to hold with my feet. And I started to get the urge to go to the bathroom. And then I stopped and I thought to myself, how is this a reminder of a past conflict in my life? Now, for a lot of you, the conflict is very distinct. My girlfriend broke up with me, then my Crohn started. I lost my job 2 years ago, then my Crohn started. For me, I'm in a different boat. I have had digestive issues for 20, 30 years now. So it's kind of childhood trauma. And we'll use the air quotes around trauma because my trauma is like having my video games taken away from me. But when I was younger, what we would do is go on these long road trips a few times a year. And in these road trips, the territory was, let's say, very confined. And, even though we were in a van, it's a matter of perspective. I know I sound like an ungrateful brat right here. But a lot of the times during these road trips, a lot of trash would pile up and people would fight for space in the car. And I remember there was a few times where we'd be on these trips and somebody puts the cooler underneath my feet and take up all of my room, and I didn't use anything from the cooler, and I would get really upset and throw a hissy fit. And this is crap I want to get rid of, but I can't. So I was essentially reliving that conflict in the car. And just having that aha moment, just, wow, that's what this is. Crap in my pants is just going to create more of a mess. That is what we're trying to do here. Whereas what most people are doing nowadays is they're in the car, they're experiencing their conflict reminders, but they're blind to it because they're blaming energy and nutrients. They're blaming food. Like, oh, I just ate this hamburger. I just ate gluten. I just ate protein. And now my gut can't handle that. You've eaten that your whole entire life and you're fine. No, it is a conflict reminder. You don't always have to be angry. And it runs in this place between the conscious and subconscious level. What was when you start to get symptoms, how is this a conflict reminder? That's what you need to start asking yourself. And you might not gonna get the answer right away. It takes a little bit of time to yank it out of the subconscious mind. So if you lost your job, here's you, and we're gonna relive the conflict really quick. That's a conflict, whatever. And you're your boss, let's say he's wearing a hat, your boss fires you. The subconscious minders can be really ridiculous. Like maybe he was wearing a red hat. Now every time you see a red hat, you're like, man, people with red hats, they're jerks. And then you get symptoms. I want to get rid of this crap, but I can't. I can't get rid of my boss's crap, but I can't. Okay, I'll help you. I'll put your intestines in overdrive. We'll get diarrhea. We'll get rid of that crap real fast. That's what your subconscious mind's doing. Let's say you got fired on a Wednesday. Now every Wednesday you get a flare. I've seen this happen before. It's silly, but I've seen it happen before. Maybe it's every winter, the beginning of the winter, you got fired. So now every time the winter starts, you're really crabby about, how there's not enough jobs, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. When you get symptoms, do not blame food. Instead, ask what? I'm in the car and there's a bunch of stuff near my feet. Oh, I'm reading an email and I really don't like this email. I'm reading a text. I really don't like this text. I really don't want to deal with this crap right now. Okay, how does that text remind you of the original conflict? And the problem that I see with most people is they have no idea what their original conflict is, which you really don't have any excuse for if your symptoms started a few years ago, within 5 years. You have no excuse. Very easy to find your conflict. But if you're somebody like me, where it's been 10, 20, 30 years, then it's like, okay, is this a reoccurring theme in my life? Like, when, especially like looking in at your childhood, like, okay, yeah, we were in the car a lot. I didn't like being in the car. We were always, you know, like, what were you usually? It's like related to almost like childhood trauma. Write down a list. Write down a list of like what you. Every time you get symptoms, like pull out your phone while you're on the toilet and be like, I was at the computer when my symptoms got started, and somebody started talking to me. I didn't want to talk to them, and I got symptoms. How is this a reminder? Oh, this reminds me of when I was at school and my teacher wouldn't let me leave until I didn't have any grammar mistakes on my paper. I wanted to get rid of her crap, but I couldn't. Like, these are the things that we're looking for. And a lot of times, like, you really don't even need to go to a psychologist and have them talk around it for days and days and days. You, like, a lot of the times, like 75% of the time, you just have to make a conscious connection. And then it breaks the link, and then your gut is no longer going in and out of overdrive just because you see a reminder of the conflict. That's all we're doing. You see it in movies all the time, like a PTSD trigger, like Rambo. He gets, somebody shows him a knife and he has a flashback of the Vietnam War because he was attacked with a knife. We're not cool when we go Rambo mode and start kicking people and punching people. Instead, we get gut pain or we get diarrhea. That's how this works. When you get symptoms, write down what you were doing and then ask yourself, this is like a reoccurring theme of stress in my life. How does this relate to, my conflict shock when I got let go from my job 5 years ago? If you ask those questions enough, your subconscious mind will eventually go, oh, it's like this. And then you go, oh, wow, okay. Oh, you get the goosebumps, you have an epiphany, that aha moment, and then you don't get diarrhea when you encounter those situations anymore. It's literally that simple. So, all right, guys, I'm Mike the Healer Gut Guy. If you haven't already, go watch my webinar, and it goes into all this stuff in much, much more details. And you also get signed up for my email newsletter, which I have tons and tons. I wrote a book essentially, and I didn't want to finish it because it's a lot of work. So I just pretty much just threw it in my emails. So you'll get access to that if you sign up for the webinar and the email list. All right, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.